The traditional view in the medical community is that diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is caused through genetics and lifestyle issues, the interaction between those two. And there is no doubt that those two things do play a role. Why is there so much diabetes in Indian country? Why is there so much diabetes in minority populations in general? The answer is that there's been an unusual amount of trauma that has happened to Indian people, and that there are very clear physiologic as well as behavioral responses to trauma. And that's what we need to understand, because as we try to unravel this, as we try to figure out what's going on with diabetes and domestic violence and all of it, it has common roots. And those roots are what traumatized people do, how that affects them personally and on a community-wide level. Historical trauma is a critical perspective for understanding that. On top of which, there are ongoing traumas. The trauma of racism and poverty is not to be minimized. And that, of course, is happening absolutely every day as well. Trauma does affect obesity in several ways. It affects it by changing behavior. People who are traumatized will often have coping strategies to deal with, when the trauma comes up for them again. And for many people, that is to eat to fill that empty hole, if you will. So since we have that model on how trauma affects diabetes, it's very important that we reach out in the community and find a way to help to heal that.
You don't know what you mean to me, I do.
For all those reasons, that's why the Cherokee Choices intervention is looking at a mentoring intervention to go in and work with kids, hopefully before some of the trauma has set in too deeply, if you will, and tries to be there for them emotionally, to listen to what's going on in their lives, to offer support in a very appropriate way, to mirror back to these children how critically important their lives are, how beautiful they are, which is not a message that traumatized people can always give to their children. In fact, they usually can't mirror back. We can't mirror back to a child what we don't have in ourselves. And so when people have been traumatized, they pass it on. The vector of disease transmission, if you will, is parenting. It's not because parents don't want to try, or it's because they're not trying because they don't care. It's because they can't. So our mentors go into the schools. They also eat lunch with the kids. They go to recess with the kids, play kickball with them, whatever it is, to give them every opportunity to show adults who care about them, who mirror back to them their own worth, their own importance, and that their issues do matter. If we do not find a way to change this epidemic, we will have done what the bullets, the treaties, the boarding schools did not do. We will have succeeded in probably eliminating Indian culture in a meaningful way, because there just won't be very many of us left who are healthy enough to pass it on.
For all the great things Sherman is trying to do, the bitter fact is Sherman students are cut off from their families and their tribes. At least a third will drop out or be sent home before the school year is over.
At Sherman, I did my dissertation there, and, there was about 78% had some type of, alcohol or drug problem, followed by depression. It's higher than any other ethnic group.
Dr. Carrie Johnson is Wahpeton, Dakota. On her first day at Sherman as a mental health counselor, she found over 20 students under suicide watch. These days, she works with Native American children in the Los Angeles County Foster Care Program.
A lot of our children that we see, for example, have been through, not only one trauma, but often multiple traumas in their life in terms of physical abuse, sexual abuse, and neglect. But then when we look at multi-generational trauma, we look at what has happened to their parents or what has happened to their grandparents or their great-grandparents, and how that has been passed on from generation to generation.
In my opinion, all of our people are at risk for something, whether it be substance abuse, suicide, poverty. They're all at risk. And here in California, we have a 60% dropout rate of our high school students. Our Indian youth are dropping out twice as much as the Indian youth across the country. That's at 30.4%. We have the highest suicide rate. We have a 56% non-graduate rate. We have 40% plus poverty rate of just our Indian youth in LA County alone. That means almost half of our families are in poverty.
The only way that we can resolve multi-generational traumas is really going back, is really getting in touch with our culture, our spirituality, a lot of things that were lost.